Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Meyers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And today an issue that we visited before, but so much has happened, it's time to check back in.
Yes, we've got two very good guests coming on, Kim Garett and Tricia Everest. They're going to talk to us about Palomar. We've done a show, as you mentioned, about Palomar when it was in its infancy. A lot has happened. It's in its adolescence, I guess, now. And we want to find out what's going on, what kind of successes they're having, and what kind of the situation is in Oklahoma City dealing with Palomar.
We will continue the story of Palomar next on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
Law enforcement runs in my family. My father and I combined have served as citizens of Oklahoma for half a century, and I'm proud to carry on the tradition. I'm Lieutenant Dwight Durant with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, and I am CHICKASAW. We all get into law enforcement for various reasons, but the main reason is because we have this need to help other people. The misperception is that we're out here stopping speeders and writing speeding tickets. That's a small portion of what we actually do in an 8-hour day. Putting on the uniform, going through the very intensive patrol school, succeeding through that and graduating, the pride that I had was more than I could ever imagine. Oklahoma Highway Patrol is one of the finest institutions that we have, and I am honored to be a member of the Highway Patrol. I'm honored to be a citizen of the state of Oklahoma, and just as honored to be a citizen of the Chickasaw tribe.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
One of the best kept secrets about the post 9/11 GI Bill benefit is that it can be used at a trade school or a technical school, and it doesn't have to be used at a university or college. These are benefits that the veterans have earned through their service, and they should take advantage of it.
Veterans really need to understand that there are many resources offered by the Oklahoma Department of Veteran Affairs. They are there to help you find the right school for you, the school that will help you and your family make great steps into your future.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
As we said in the opening segment, we're really pleased to welcome to the set of The Verdict Tricia Everest and Kim Garett to talk about a very important subject for Oklahoma City viewers and state generally, of course, and that's Palomar. Tricia is the founding chair of Palomar, which is Oklahoma City's Family Justice Center. She did her undergraduate work at Vanderbilt University, did her law work at the University of Oklahoma, and was quite an outstanding student, as I remember. She went to work at the AG's office and worked there a while, did some other practicing of law activities before she left the active practice of law, the day-to-day practice, and became the founding chair of Remerge, organization in trying to help women reintegrate after incarceration. She has many other, I'm about to tell you something you don't know. She has many other activities, awards, recognitions that are all justified. But the last thing on her resume was that she finished a ultra marathon. She's a triathlete. Yes.
I had no idea.
Well, I didn't either. I'd see why we didn't. But we're also welcoming. Yeah, I noticed. Kim Garett is the CEO and co-founder of Palomar. She did her undergraduate work and master's degree work at the University of Nevada, Reno. She got her master's in social work. And she has an interesting thing on her resume that I wanted to mention also, that her inclination toward helping others began when she was in the 3rd grade. And she had a fund drive, a 1-cent fund drive, donate a penny.
Sounds like maps.
It does indeed. It was to save the manatees in California, I guess it was.
We raised the money actually in Nevada, but it was for the manatees in Florida.
Right. We were able to lure her in 2011 to come to Oklahoma City to start work with victims services provision. She is now, as I say, the CEO of Palomar, doing a great job there. And Palomar, I guess, has served more than 4,000 clients, I think is correct. In any event, enough of that. Welcome. Glad to have
Great
you
to
all.
both on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we did a show when you all were fairly new with Palomar.
Yes, we did.
And its ability to help people. But why don't we first back up and pretend there's an audience out there that really hadn't heard of Palomar, doesn't really know what it's about. Who wants to kind of explain the basics?
And how'd the name come
we're here?
about?
Sure. So Palomar is a one-stop shop for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, and elder abuse, where the great agencies in our community who are serving these families can come together in one location to reduce barriers and increase efficiency for our clients. It was based out of a model in California that we duplicated in Oklahoma City. We spent years researching it. You were a part of it. Tricia, always part of our journey. And we opened in February of 2017. And interestingly enough, before we even opened, we had over 50 people come to our building. We didn't have any signage. We didn't have any furniture. We didn't have any equipment. And victims were desperate for help, and their children needed help. And so our professionals served them. And now, a little over 2.5 years later, we have proudly served over 7,000 unduplicated victims. 34% of them are children. And all types of crime categories. We've had all ages, genders. 20% of our clients are males. And we're proud to be serving people in our community. Oklahoma has a high rate of violence against women, high rates of domestic violence, sexual assault. Statistically, if you look across the United States, we have a higher rate than any other state in the United States. So the work we do is important, it matters. And when you look at, like in Oklahoma City, for instance, the calls to 911 are 32,000 annually. So I always say that's the equivalent of filling Chesapeake Arena twice. And it also equates to 1 in 6 households. So the numbers are significant in our community.
And Tricia, part of the issue that was trying to be addressed was just the fact that you had all these law enforcement agencies, and they might individually all want to help, but the coordination didn't seem to be there the way it is today.
No, not at all, Mick. That's a really good point. When Kim was working at the police department in victim services, she would describe how, like, handing out shiny brochures and sending people all different places and kind of wishing you well. But there wasn't any type of coordination. Until we opened, detectives, advocates, and lawyers had never met each other in person. That's huge. We know that there's a problem. I had tremendous honor to work with Kent when he started Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, and recognizing that none of those services were coming together at the same time. So what would take 7 weeks, a phone tag, now happens in 7 minutes of coordinated wraparound services. We had a really good, so we have adult protective services and child protective services. DHS was one of the original partners as well. We had 15 original partners. Now we have 30 agencies coming in, including ATF. The U.S. Attorney's Office is helping to staff cases and really taking cases away. If there's a protective order and a weapon, it's a federal offense. Victims don't even have to testify. So if you imagine the different types of solutions that are coming together when all the different services work together. DHS reported, looking back at you, Ken, from when I got to work in Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, so here we are in the late 90s, and those same kids that were not receiving true trauma or unaddressed issues are the ones that ended up being in remerge, right? I mean, I watched so many years later going into remerge, and those same children I saw that had been adjudicated deprived and sometimes subsequently delinquent were the ones that were also now facing, prison sentences for nonviolent crimes and drug-related, abuse-related, and be able to divert them. Every one of them came from an abusive relationship or abusive childhood that could have used Palomar services. So really going up the river and recognizing, and DHS inside the building said that we have a great 2015 35,000 calls to 911 for domestic violence alone just in the city of Oklahoma City. So that's not, I don't know what Tulsa's numbers are, and I don't even know what all the surrounding cities outside of Oklahoma City, but Oklahoma City alone, thanks to lethality assessments, we know that 78% of those calls to homes had children in them. DHS was reporting that they would have to take about 90% of the cases took children out, and it would take, 8-9 months to be able to identify and kind of unravel without any coordinated care. And now with coordinated response, since we opened in 2017, it's less than 9% removal because the care is so coordinated with the wraparound services. It's quite remarkable what happens when people are sitting at the table. And Palomar, you asked earlier, is a fishing knot. And when the strands are tied together, it's the strongest, most reliable knot. Now, with the clientele that we serve, it was pretty early described that you couldn't have any kind of logo that had ropes and knots. But generally speaking, it's created its own brand by all of the partners that come in and serve it together.
We just have about 45 seconds before we have to take a break, but I noticed in your opening remarks you used the phrase not unduplicated.
Unduplicated.
In talking about your clients, explain that just briefly.
So we encourage clients to come back. These are really complex situations, and so they come back many times. We've actually had over 24,000 visits. So unduplicated means that same person has come back multiple times, which is actually our goal, is to create community where they keep coming back to, so they can heal through this complex journey.
Okay.
All right, well, let's get to a break. Kim Garett and Tricia Everest are our guests. We're talking about Palomar, and we'll be back with more.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative. And this year, our competition teams ranked #2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. BancFirst is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. BancFirst serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. BancFirst, loyal to Oklahoma, loyal to you.
To the set of the verdict. We're visiting with Kim Garett and Tricia Everest on Palomar.
Ladies, tell us what you can about Palomar's activities in the MAPS 4 projects.
Sure. Currently, Oklahoma City was looking at expanding and doing a MAPS 4, which is a 1-cent sales tax to support growth and initiatives in the community, and we presented to City Council a few months ago and asked them to support building our phase 2 permanent home for our community to house our partner agencies. And it would be, what we asked for was an 80,000 square foot facility that would include a training and conference facility, more client space, the ability to add in medical and laboratory services, community space for clients and things like that. And it was really well received by council, by citizens, and they just voted last week to move forward to a vote of the people December 10th, which is really exciting.
So December 10th, the people of Oklahoma City will have a chance to say yes or no on that plus other
That
projects.
plus 15 other projects.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, what misconceptions are out there about domestic violence and the entire issue? That people might think one thing and make an assumption, and it's just not true, and it's one of the obstacles that you have in helping people.
Sure. I think there's a lot of misconceptions of, I don't know anybody, that it's not happening in my community, and if you really look at the data, it is sprinkled throughout every single community. It doesn't discriminate. And so acknowledging that this is an issue and it's a profound issue that's impacting our community, even if you're not directly impacted, it's impacting a lot of things that you interface with, like the economy, the healthcare system, public safety, things like that. So it will indirectly impact you, even if you're not experiencing it directly. There's also an idea of, why does she stay? And when you really work a day in Palomar and you see what these families experience, and they flee with nothing but the clothes on their back and their kids, and take a leap of faith not knowing where they're going and if they'll have friends there, or if, things like that. It's really complicated and scary for these families, and so there's a lot of misconception.
Well, it takes a lot of courage.
It takes a lot of courage and community support and long-term support.
So this is not just a low-income problem.
Correct. I'm glad you said that, because we actually have clients all over the spectrum of socioeconomics. A lot of people tend to think it's those people, and that's just not the reality. That's not what's reflected in our clientele. And usually people with more affluence or resources don't tend to call 911. They use other methods such as divorce or therapy or things like that, but it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Tricia, what's going on the nonviolent offenders and the prosecution side? Is there any improvement in state law?
We are, as a state, working on, we had like the 780, 781, where we were changing things for nonviolent offenses. And the Attorney General has a task force that's reclassifying what's violent and nonviolent. And what's really shocking, the more that we work together and learn these things, is that through that whole process, domestic violence is considered nonviolent. Domestic violence by strangulation is considered nonviolent. Domestic, was it hurting a woman with a pregnant woman? Considered.
Domestic violence on a pregnant woman.
Yeah, domestic is nonviolent. And not recognizing those, it's fascinating. I can see probably why decades ago that came about, but it's really amazing that we need to really fine tune and look at what we're actually talking about, because it's quite appalling that would be considered.
What's the fix? Is it legislative action, or is it simple the AG's office making a different determination?
It will just be the Attorney General's office. So General Hunter is coordinating that task force for reclassification. Governor Stitt is also working with the Attorney General and with the state, and to be able and restore, to recognize those inconsistencies in what we would perceive to be violent and nonviolent, and making sure that the law actually will compute with the best results for the safety of all of our people in the state.
With the success of the efforts you all are putting together, I'm assuming that there are other communities out there that have reached out and wanted to learn more about what you're doing and what they've learned. Are you able to share?
Yes, we're glad to share, and we've actually become a resource for quite a few communities across the United States. I've gotten calls from California, Utah, North Carolina, abroad. And so it's exciting. Even Australia recently contacted me. And it's exciting that we have a model that is really leading in what we're doing. We've had some great outcomes already. When you look at our data, calls to 911 have decreased 8.4% since we opened, which means we're interrupting the cycle and people are getting help earlier. cases filed with the Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office have gone up 37%. So offenders are being held accountable more for their actions, which means they're less likely to recommit crimes because they're seeing consequences for their bad choices. And so it's exciting, the outcomes that we're seeing.
Okay, and go ahead.
Well, I was just curious about how each of you got drawn into this kind of activity. It's certainly needed, but there are a lot of other things you could have spent your time dealing with, but you both chose to be involved with this Palomar activity. How did that come about?
I've always had a heart for helping, obviously, people, animals, and
the manatees.
And the manatees, yes, all the above. And I've worked with crime victims since I was 19 years old, and I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else, and so it's really an honor for me to work in this field.
You did that for the City of Oklahoma City Police Department, did
Correct.
you not?
Yes.
And that was a stepping stone, I guess.
Yes, that was one of, many stepping stones, yes.
Yeah.
And Tricia, how'd you get drawn to this?
I'm not sure how I originally got drawn to it, but from my time at Vanderbilt, I worked with victims of crime and domestic violence in the district attorney's office, and recognized that there was such stigma and such shame, and that there's so many different facets and so many barriers and ways. When I worked with Kent and Oklahoma Lawyers for Children and really was in Oklahoma County, and recognized significant abuse in different cycles, and how can we break those cycles? And a lot of it is changing the stigma, so changing the conversation, changing the ability. And I would like to add that Palomar is a family justice center. We're the 138th in the nation. We were able to build on the shoulders of all those that have been building before. We had Mick, as the Mayor Cornett, being able to work with the city as a partner and have so many different groups ready to come together and advance. But we have also, there's Family Safety Center in Tulsa is one of our partners in this cause. So it's not just an Oklahoma City, it's also recognizing best practices and how we can advance it in our largest areas, our largest cities in the state and beyond. But we've had, 7 different states come in to work and try to recognize this model of interaction. It's not really answering how I got involved, except it is recognizing that it will break the cycles of incarceration, it will break cycles of abuse, and it will break cycles of addiction, and those, all of those are very important to me.
Kim, if there's a viewer at home that would like to help, what can they do? What can people that are watching this show help?
Sure. We have a great website you can get on and learn about volunteer opportunities. Go to palomarokc.org. And also, if you're in the Tulsa area, Tulsa Safety Center, they have a website. You can learn more about opportunities in Tulsa. If you're interested in the nonviolent offenders and reclassification, I'd contact your legislators and the Attorney General's office and tell them it's important to you. And yeah.
Well, we sure congratulate you folks on what you're doing. We're really pleased that you could come talk to us about it today, and we wish you the best. The concept, when you explain it, seems so simple, but it wasn't thought of until folks like you came along and got it done. It's one thing to think about it, it's something else to get it done, and you all did it, and you're to be congratulated.
Thank you.
There are always capital needs, and there are always operational needs, and I assume you all accept funding if someone has an ability to write a check to help the cause. You would gratefully accept it. All right.
1 penny at a time.
Yes, 1 penny at a time.
All right. Kim Garett and Tricia Everest doing so much great work with Palomar. And Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back. I just want to say thank you on behalf of the people of Oklahoma County who you worked with, started with, but also statewide, because now I know what you've learned is now being duplicated in so many other places. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
both.
both.
We'll be right back.
It used to be okay in teachers' lounges. It used to be okay in maternity wards. It was okay in sporting arenas, college campuses, and office spaces. But now that we understand the deadly dangers of secondhand smoke, that's not okay anymore. So why is it okay that thousands of employees are exposed to it every day at work? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's protect hardworking Oklahomans. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
We are a very conservative family, and we believe in old-fashioned family values. We have a loving home there, and we love kids, and we have 5, 6 of our own. And but I had no idea we were going to go into adoption, but it's been very gratifying.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick, Cornett, and Kent Meyers wrapping up the show on Palomar.
Yes, had 2 friends back to talk to us about Palomar. Interesting concept, fascinating that somebody hadn't thought of it before, and because it's so logical. I'm sure that the clients that frequent Palomar in need of its services are very grateful that it's there.
And as always, we always want to encourage people, if they suspect there might be a situation, domestic abuse going on in a neighboring family, say something, do something. Doing nothing could make you regret that later. And we have some website information. You can get more details about Palomar and all the great work they do. It's at palomarokc.org. That's PALOMAROKC.org. And we have a website. We'd love for you to log on and tell us about a guest you'd like to see on a future edition of The Verdict. Our website is theverdict.tv. That's going to do it for this edition. For Kent Meyers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week right here with another show of The Verdict.